Then according to the Social Health Insurance Regulations, which is under the Social Health Insurance Act, which is newly enacted, every person resident in Kenya shall apply to the authority for registration as a member of Social Health Insurance Fund pursuant to Section 26, subsection 1 of the Act. Note: it is the responsibility of the Kenyans to go and register for the insurance, and so you don't stand to benefit simply because you are a Kenyan. Then the application shall be named in Form 1, set out in the first schedule to these regulations, and shall be accompanied by 1. A copy of the national identification document of the applicant, or in the case of a person without a national identification document, any other document as may be approved by the authority. And then from there, the authority shall, upon examining the application and the information provided in the application, register the applicant as a member of the Social Health Insurance Fund and shall assign to each beneficiary a Social Health Insurance number. After that, the authority shall, upon successful registration, notify the applicant of the registration within 14 days from the date of the registration. A beneficiary shall provide his or her biometric data at a designated service point. Then from there, the authority shall make special arrangements, including availing mobile registration services for the registration of persons with disability, older persons, persons under lawful custody, the marginalized communities, and persons incapacitated by illness. Then after that, the authority shall comply with the provisions of the Data Protection Act of 2019 and the Digital Health Act of 2023 in the processing of personal data. In other words, Data Protection Act of 2019 safeguards the privacy and personal data of individuals. That means when the data will be taken for the purposes of registering the insurance fund, it will not be made available to any third party as per the law. It will only be used for the purposes of capturing the personal data for the purposes of health registration purposes. Then the contributor may list beneficiaries in the application Form 1 provided in the first schedule to these regulations at the time of registration to enable the beneficiaries to access the benefits under his or her cover. A contributor seeking to include a beneficiary in his or her application shall provide the following particulars. Number 1, the full name of the beneficiary. Number 2, the date of birth of the beneficiary. Number 3, the place of birth of the beneficiary. Number 4, the sex of the beneficiary. And then 5, a passport photograph of the beneficiary. 6, the nationality of the beneficiary where necessary. Then 7, the contact information of the beneficiary. Then 8, the relationship with the beneficiary. Then 9, disability of the beneficiary if any. And then 10, any other information as may be required by the authority. Then after that, a contributor shall provide the following documents of identification of any beneficiary. Number 1, in case of a spouse of the contributor, a copy of the national identification document of the spouse and a copy of the document of evidence of marriage recognized under the Marriage Act will be provided. Then number 2, in the case of a child of the contributor, a copy of the birth certificate of the child or a copy of a birth notification where the child is below the age of 6 months. And then number 3, in the case of an adopted child of a contributor, a copy of the adoption order. Then number 4, in the case of a child for whom the contributor stands in loco parentis, a will, deed, or court order will be provided. Then 5, in the case of a person with disability and who is wholly dependent on a contributor, a copy of the national identification document and the certificate of registration from the National Council for Persons with Disabilities will be provided. In the case, then we move to number 6, in the case of a non-Kenyan resident, a work permit or an alien identification card will be provided. And then number 7, in the case of a person in lawful custody, the prison admission number, the remand identification number, or a copy of the national identification document will be provided. And then 8, in the case of a child in conflict with the law, the admission number of the child's remand home, rehabilitation institution, or Boston institution, or a copy of the birth certificate will be provided. And then 10, in the case of a refugee, an asylum seeker's pass, or a movement pass, or a letter of recognition, or a refugee identification card, or a conventional travel document will be provided. Thank you so much for listening to Flockel Show, a show that informs, shares, and educates. Remember, our country being a law-abiding country, all of us are bound by the law. We are governed by the rule of law, and once a law comes into effect, we have no other option other than to go as per the law. Thank you so much, and we urge all the people to hurry up and register for new insurance model for their health benefits. Thank you so much. Remember to subscribe to our channel, Flockel Show, or you write a comment to us so that we can be able to always update you whenever we have any new video or whenever we have any new information to pass. Thank you so much.